What's up, guys? This is Chetty. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This video, we're going to be building a dashboard for our running app. And the way that we're going to do this is we're going to do it through identity, and we're going to give the user the ability to edit their clubs and their races on their own. And we're going to also take away the ability for people logging in or guests, not admin users, to be able to edit and delete every single running club, which is kind of what we're having now. So after we get done, this is all going to disappear. People will obviously be able to view the running club, but the ability to edit is going to be restricted to, number one, a super admin who can edit and delete everything, and then only show the specific clubs to the user in a dashboard. And maybe if that doesn't make a lot of sense to you, it will make sense kind of as we go along here. But as I always say, let's quit with the chit chat and let's start building this thing. So first things first is we need to restrict the ability to see the dashboard first thing to only people who are logged in. And the way that we're going to do that is through HTML helpers in our detail page. And this is pretty easy. First thing that we need to do first, though, is we need to go into our program.cs. Very important. Do not forget this part, because this will cause you confusion if you don't do this. So we need to go into our program.cs and we need to use authentication. Otherwise, this thing these HTML helpers that I'm going to show you, are not going to work. Very easy, not that complicated. So next thing that we want to do is go into our layout, and let's go in here. So if the user is logged in, let me see. So just go ahead. I've got a little snippet here that I'm pulling over from the GitHub repo, but feel free to type it out manually, or just go to the repo and get it from there. But just going to go in there and do that. So if the user is authenticated, trying to think, we actually do not. We want that down here. So if the user is not authenticated, we want that login and want that register to be shown. But if they are authenticated, we want the logout button and we want the dashboard to be shown. And I'm just going to go, this is all over in the GitHub. If you can't find it, post a comment down below and I'll drop a link for you, but I'm going to include this in the description. So going down right here, and then we've got our dashboard button, and I'm actually not going to call this user. I'm actually going to call this controller dashboard, and we haven't built it yet, but we will here in a second. And we built out our login button. So we've got our account login button. So when we click the log out, it's going to work too. We'll test it here in a second. So let's just go ahead, fire it up, see if it works. Pretty simple little snippet there, nothing too complicated. So go in here, and it looks like we are not logged in. Let's go ahead and log in, and let's log in with an admin account. So got this, Smith, developer. Okay, then let's go back to our seed, see what our password is. And when we seeded the data, we actually created a admin user. So make sure that you've seeded a user, otherwise this admin is not going to work. But if you want to, you can write like a very simple script. The bad thing about admin super users is they're sort of difficult to create and they're difficult to kind of mock or test. So if you want to, this is going to be really difficult. You're going to need an admin or a super user to do all the things that I'm about to do, but I'm sure that there's ways you could get around it, but it's going to be really difficult testing, doing all this admin stuff. So we've got our admin and it looks like it works. But let me see here. We've got our dashboard. Let's see if our logout works. Great, our logout is working. So go in here and we're going to go back, test it again. So now what we want to worry about is we don't want to show these edit and delete parts to people who are not super admins. We want super admin to be able to edit everything, but we also want users to only be able to edit clubs, their specific clubs, not every single club within their dashboard. So let's go ahead and let's start taking care of that part. And the way that we're going to solve this is, let me see here, I got some snippets. So Microsoft provides awesome little helpers. Like I said, Microsoft is awesome. They know everything. I'm just kidding. They know what developers want, and they provide these cool little snippets, like I said, so that you as the developer don't have to worry so much about coding all of this stuff. So let's go here. And we're not going to mess with the club category. We just want to configure these links. So we're going to go in here and let's clean this up a little bit. This is looking like trash. All right, so bring that back. And the way that you tab back is you shift tab. So you can shift tab and Visual Studio will bring stuff back. And if you want to regular tab, you just regular tab. Pretty self-explanatory. So we'll have that. And the way that this works also very, very important. Okay, so this is very important. You don't want to miss this part. So user is in role. When we created our user, we created through user roles, and this has to match exactly. Like this is a lowercase admin, and if you go in here and you have this, that's not going to work. So make sure that you have that because it matches it's case sensitive. So we'll go in here and we're just going to do the exact same thing for the races. So go in here, gonna go like that, bring that back so it looks a little bit better. Then we're gonna go down to our delete, just like this. And Visual Studio, of course, has wonderful intelligence. Okay, something's going wrong here. I'm just gonna go back and delete whatever's going wrong here. I think there's we're missing a div or something. I can't really seem to figure it out. So we're gonna go in here. We want that view. We want everybody to be able to see a view. Then we're gonna go back, clean this up a little bit, looking like doo-doo. Then we're gonna bring this back a little bit. And we've got insert on. Okay, so let's go ahead here. I'm gonna go ahead, smash that hot reload button. We're gonna log out. Make sure you log out, and it's looking good. We've got our admin, and now they can see the individual running club, but they do not have the ability to edit or delete it. We're gonna have to go back and get our admin user password. So we're gonna go here, coding 1 2 3 4 question mark. Okay, and great. Now the admin user can see the view and the edit button, and excuse me. Let's go into SQL Server and find a user who is not an admin that we just created. Actually, we could probably just go in here. I think a better idea. Okay. Let me see. Let's use the register. So go into the database, go into the tables. We got ASP.NET users. test at Gmail. Actually, let's just create one really quick. I tested that one out a little. I tested that out. So we'll do test go user at Gmail. And we'll call this test 1 2 3 4 exclamation mark. Test 1 2 3 4 exclamation mark. Great. We've created a user. Test 1 2 3 4. Oh. And feel free to make whichever one that you want to. Test 1 2 3 4. And the user cannot see the view, but they're still logged in and they can access the dashboard. So the next thing that we need to do, once again, is we need to make a dashboard controller because we're going to start creating our dashboard and we do not have a dashboard. So what we want to do is go into our Visual Studio, go into our controller, and I'm just going to call this dashboard controller because we may have other parts of our we may have more functionality to our dashboard. Maybe you want to add more functionality to your dashboard, and it may make sense just to make a whole entire controller for it as opposed to maybe putting it inside the account controller, which I think would still work, but I think it makes a little bit more sense to do it this way. And I think we've already actually got it wired up to, let me see here. So let's close all this. Let's go into our views and let's add a folder. And as always, you need to name your folder after the first part of your controller. That may seem a little redundant, but who knows, there may be somebody in here who is coming from a different video and wants to, or may not know that. All right, I need to add a view. So let's go in here, view, Razor view. And we're gonna just call it index HTML. Let's go ahead, toss in an H1, make sure that we've got it wired up. So dashboard, like that. Okay, and awesome. We now have a dashboard. So one thing that we want to do is when so right now we need to give we're going to take away the ability for random guest, because at this point random guest can just go in and start creating clubs, and you definitely do not want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all that out, and I'm going to take away the ability for random people, and I'm going to put the create buttons inside of the dashboard. So as of right now, it's probably not the best case, but because we're building an MVP and we're just trying to get this thing out the door, we could just put it in there for now. And in the future, if people really like our app, we can start adding more functionality. But for right now, we're just going to, put that create button inside of that dashboard. So let me see here. And I've got a code snippet here that I am just going to I'm just going to go ahead and toss in there. And this isn't this is a backend, C# backend development course. So I'm going to stay away from having, a lot of front end development type stuff going on, and we need to right now. So we've got we've got to create club, and we've got to create race. So now the user can create their own clubs and they can create their own race. And we also want the user to have your races and your clubs. We want them to be able to only see their actual the content that they have created, the listings that they have created for their app. And the way that I'm going to do that is we've already actually built out the services for this too. So first thing that we want to do is we want to go inside of our dashboard, of course, and then we want to start bringing in our database. So we've got the dashboard controller, and then we want to bring in our app application DB context. Now we bring the context. Then we hit control dot, and then we're gonna assign this dot context, and it's gonna do everything for us, which is awesome. Then we're gonna go, let me see here. We're going to actually bring in the iUser service. So we've actually got a service already built out. Let me make sure that we've got this thing built out. Or interfaces. Maybe we haven't built it yet. Okay, let me see here. Okay, we have not actually built this out. So let's go ahead and actually build out our interfaces for this. So we're gonna go and as you can kind of see, the dashboard is relatively complicated, so I'm kind of building this thing on the fly, and you'll kind of get to see like how you would build like how somebody thinks like when they're building like a real app and they're not building things from like a script, I guess you could say. So we're gonna go iDashboard service. Actually, let's call this repository just for good naming convention, because that's really what it is. We're not pulling from we're pulling from a database. This isn't actually a service. So we're gonna go in here. We're gonna make it an interface, and then we're going to call it iDashboard repository. Great, that looks good. Going in here, we're gonna make these async, and we're going to return a list of our races. And we're gonna call this get all user races. In a task list, we're gonna call this, we're gonna be returning clubs, and get all user clubs. Bring that in. Simple enough. So now I've got a nice little repository. Then we're going to actually create the class. Very simple. So dashboard repository. And I think that actually makes probably the best sense anyway, because we want to separate all of these concerns. If we just we're throwing in every single database call, if this app got popular, it would start getting unwieldy pretty quickly. And then we want to go in here, and we're going to actually bring in this interface. So iDashboard repository. So got that, and of course we need to implement our interface. Now we need to start creating the database calls. We're going to bring in that constructor, of course. Bring in the application DB context. Just give that context. Great. And let me see here. So now we need to actually start configuring our services. And these are going to be relatively easy. So first thing we want to do is actually finish bringing this in. So control dot, and we're going to bring in that field. It's going to be read only, like that, like that. And we also, because we are having to identify the user specifically, we're going to have to use what's called an Ihttp context accessor. And there's many ways that you can do this. There's like so many ways that you can access the HTTP context. And if you don't know what the HTTP context, it's basically like a giant object where you can access all types of crazy functionality directly from the web page. And it's like a giant object that is given to you, once again, by Microsoft. And they even give you this little fancy interface to where you can just toss it in and you can use a dependency injection for it. And it's pretty easy to use. And that is pretty much it, I think. And now we need to actually go in here. Var current user is equal to HTTP context. And then we're actually going to make this null, or else it will give us a error. There we go. And here we're going to bring in our context. A lot of context. This is actually the clubs. So we're going to get those clubs, and we're going to do a where clause, and you're going to use this handy little delegate. And so app user dot ID is equal to, let me see, current user dot to string. And then we're gonna have to return the user race, this is clubs. Yep, so clubs. Then we're gonna return that list that we get back, and we're just gonna make this thing a list, because we've already coded it to return a list. User clubs is not null. Collection is generic. And I think we need to make this, oh wait. Okay, great. And this one's actually going to be very similar to this one. So we're going to go var current. We're going to call this one the races. Go races. User. And we need to make this async. Great, so now we just kind of literally built out our repository on the fly. So we actually don't need the application DB context anymore. So go back to there. Now we'll bring in our AI dashboard. We can get rid of pause. Tory, I'm gonna call it. So bring in that. That's looking good. We can delete this application DB context because that's not the best coding convention. We're gonna assign this field. We're gonna go in here. And now we are going to code the ability for specific data to be returned back from our database for our users. So users to list. Let's actually do that one later. So we'll go here for user races because these are specific to the user. Then we're going to go, and we actually need to make this one async because we're returning async. These repository calls are async, and when you make them async, you're going to have to make the whole entire method asynchronous. So we're going to go in here, and then go dashboard repo, get all user races, for user clubs, to await. Once again, then we're going to say get all user clubs. Okay, then we are going to, let's put these all inside of a view model. When in doubt, just create a view model. All right, so we're gonna go in here. Actually just like creating view models. I think it's so much fun. So dashboard view model. So go in here, and what we're going to, since we're returning a list, we're probably going to have to make these a list. Yep. So so basically what's going to happen is we're just going to toss in the specific user races into this view model. And you have to be, once again, you always have to be very explicit in C#. You can't just put anything anywhere, and you're going to have to specifically specify, since you're returning, since this user can have more than one race to edit, you need to be explicit about that. So we're going to go here. I'm going to go club. Then we're going to go clubs. And that is looking great. So let's go ahead, let's hit this back button. Then we're going to go back here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to just create a nice, we're going to instantiate a nice little object to hold our data inside of. And that's kind of like the beautiful thing about view models, is that they don't even need to be within the parameters. They can be anything, and they can be, they're super handy. So actually, we're going to call this dashboard view model. Dashboard view model. Looking good. So the races is going to return the user races. The clubs is going to return the clubs. And we also need to put a semicolon there. And then, of course, we're going to toss that little rascal in the view. And let's see what we come up with. And actually, while we're here, let's go ahead and start worrying about the actual view. Let's go ahead, let's check out this view. Make sure we'll keep that, we'll split screen it so that we can kind of make sure. So what we are doing here is we need to bring in our model. Always remember, always got to bring in that model. So dashboard. bring in that dashboard view model. Make sure that it is okay. Something is not right here. Got our view models. There we go. Fine. Got our dashboard view model. And that looks great. So we've got our model races. Let's just test out the races first, and then we can start worrying about the clubs. Make sure that at least we're getting the races back. So let's set a breakpoint right here, and let's see what we're actually getting back from the database, because when you're coding all that stuff on the fly like that, it's really prone to errors, and I almost don't even expect it to work the first time, to be honest with you. Exactly. See what I'm saying? Okay, so we're gonna go in here, and what has occurred is that it's a very simple fix. We just need to go in here, and we need to make sure that the ASP.NET knows about our dependency injection that's going on. So let's go ahead here, go in here. Okay, so now at least we're getting back, we're getting this thing triggered. So let's go ahead, let's step inside. Remember that okay, so if you may be new to how the debugger works, if you just click over, it will skip to here, and it's not going to go inside and actually look at our repository call. We want to step into, remember that. So there's 99% of the time you're doing step over, you're stepping into, and in this case we want to step into this, and it's going to take us inside, and we need to make sure that this is actually working. So we're going to go here. Let's see what type of data. Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. Look at that beautiful little object in there. My gosh. So go down here. Got all of these, and it provides us with all this little juicy claim data. And let me make sure that we're getting our current user to string. So let's make sure. And I think we got something back from the database. Let's go back here. Let's make sure it looks like it worked, but we need to make sure that it's actually returning stuff from the database. Okay, so the database called worked, but we didn't get anything back from the database because I don't think that this user has any races or clubs yet. So we're gonna have to. So I'm going to split the dashboard video up into two videos. Right now, we've got the dashboard working, but we're going to have to do a lot more. We're going to have to add hidden fields to the forms, and we're going to have to kind of do a lot of detailed stuff. And this video is going to be way too long, so I'm just going to bust up into two videos. Anyway, hope that you guys enjoyed this. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and as always, thank you for watching.